tell us about that, how it impacted your day-to-day life in Israel as a citizen, how it this war is impacting your daily routine of education, healthcare, or having grocery, like the normal day-to-day life, how it has impacted that.
Yeah. Before I do that, I just want to put a disclaimer. Like I said, um, there are people here who are going through horrible times, and I will share my you know the way I see things, the way I experience things. But I'm it is sad to say, but I'm fortunate enough to be on the side of things, um, because yeah, we are affected, but in lesser ways than people who were directly affected by the attack, terrorist attack, I must say. But everyone is affected. Israel is around 9.5 something million people. And I think for people coming from nations with large populations, it is really almost impossible to understand what it means, because here we had more than 1,400 people murdered. We have more than 200 people kidnapped, including more than 30 kids, even babies who are, I think, 9 months old, and elderly women and men. So the numbers are, you can't even start to grasp the numbers and to actually digest. But with such small population, everyone is affected in some way. Okay, whether it's your partner or your kids being drafted to the army, or a coworker or a colleague, and like I said, and it goes way beyond to people who have their dearest ones murdered or kidnapped, or missing. We still have people who are still missing. So everyone here is affected. And just try to imagine that you wake one day on a peaceful Saturday morning and your world is turned upside down, but in a way that you could never have imagined, even your worst nightmares. I think our minds, like sometimes we try to um, vision things, right? We try to process stuff with ourselves, try to foresee the future, and even our minds wouldn't let us go that far to those um, horrible places. So just imagine you wake up, you open the TV, and you start hearing the news. I can tell you that personally, ever since then, I can't sleep. Um, I'm so stressful. I try to work, but I cannot concentrate. It's really hard to work. You keep refreshing the news pages, trying to get some more information, something, hoping for some good news in this madness. Um, and it is very, very difficult. I have a kid who's in high school, and I try to balance what he's exposed to. But like kids, they see all those things, and you don't want them to see. But you know, you have that amount of control over what they're exposed to. Um, and yeah, it's heartbreaking. I find myself cry every day, on and off, just by sympathizing with whatever people went through. Um, and at the same time, I have this rage in my stomach, because, as you know, we talked about it in the past. We have a horrible government who led us to this situation, and I, I have, I'm fearful. I'm fearful of what is going on. I'm fearful that I have to use the word leadership, even though I don't see them as leaders. but having that leadership take us forward because they're incompetent, and I don't think they have the mindset to take us forward. And so it's like I'm trying to share that it's a whole lot of emotions mixed up. Um, I hope I somehow managed to convey what it
Wow,
feels like.
it's overwhelming. I mean, I can just feel that vibe when you are speaking and talking, Ruth. I can feel that trauma, the mindset. I think it's very similar to the COVID times when we could not sleep, that fear, that uncertainty of the future, and so many people dying out there around you. I mean, it's not easy to cope with. Uh, so you mentioned about
But
your
I do want to
yeah,
say one thing. You were talking
yeah.
about COVID. There's one big thing to remember. With COVID, it was a disease, it was out of our hands, but here we are talking about atrocities of Hamas, who did. There are no words, right? We tried to find words to describe what was going on there, and I know that there are like recordings that are shared because there are literally no words. Like I told you, like the whole human mind cannot go that far to imagine what people can do to other people. It was so brutal. Okay, it was. As you can see now, I cannot find even the words to express what was going on. Like people say, okay, like there's this slogan now, Hamas is ISIS, because people try to find correlation, like something that we know and try to compare. I think it's even further than that. Um, there's this terrorist organization who is out of hand, and yeah,
So sad, so sad, and especially seems that humans don't have mercy anymore for other human beings. We we can blame the virus, but if we humans are not compassionate enough to have mercy for other human beings, we cannot blame the nature of the virus anymore. Ruth, you mentioned about your small kid, the who goes to high school. So schools are open, and you also mentioned that we you cannot control what he sees. So what is the impact there? What is there any incidents you want to share?
yeah, sure. First of all, like not all schools are open. We have to remember that tens of thousands of people were evicted from their homes, and there are kids there who do not go to school. They start to find, places where they can attend, temporary schools, but there are kids who cannot go to school or kindergarten or anything because they're like literally ripped out of their homes with nothing, like, but their slippers and their clothes, and that's it, just pulled out to be rescued. Um, so many kids still do not go to school. Like I said, we were in a zone who's quiet, so they kind of have this routine where they go to school twice a week, and then the rest of the week they have Zoom sessions. And again, it's like for kids, I think we all know they have to have stability, and with that, they don't have any stability. And at least from my personal experience, I think that my kid is trying to find comfort just by talking to his friends, escaping to computer games. And I told him that, that at this time, I'm putting aside slightly, the educational part. And like I told him, like, go play in the computer, just clear your mind and just stay away from everything. It's not like he's disconnected because I think it is important to talk to him. He has to know what is going on, and I think that it's important that me as his parent make sure that he understands what is going on, but also comes with a critical view, and ask questions, ask difficult questions. I think it's really important, even in these times.
Very well said. Very well said. I hope, as a mother, you get more power to deal with this situation and you can give the right education and mentor to your son. You have two more sons, and I think I remember you mentioned that they are serving army. So, for how long you have not seen them, and what is what is this all? How all of this works? I'm really curious.
Yeah, I have two boys. One of them was enlisted. He's in the reserve, and he was enlisted on Saturday, um, on the horrible October 7th. And the other one is still in the army. So they're. I'm not going to say where they are, but they're both in the army. And as a mother, it is very difficult just to breathe. It's like uh, I think we all like to have control over things in our lives, and this literally throws a curveball at your life, and you have no control over your dearest ones. Um, People deal with different ways. I do try to keep my sanity, but like I force myself to watch. Here's like an advertising, but it's always sunny in Philadelphia. I just force myself to watch an episode a day, started from season 1, just to not think about anything, right? Just have, I don't know, 20-25 minutes of just looking at the TV and not thinking about anything else. Um, it kind of helps me, uh, at least for some time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like me, there are so many more parents who have their kids now in the army, and we all pray for their safety.
I mean, I also send prayers for all of the people who are impacting, including you, Ruth, and I hope this will get over. Talking about this will get over about the future, do you see that coming in how the communities, government, or army, how they are handling things, and do you see a positive and a hopeful future where this all will be settled down?
I We have to be right. We have to be positive, otherwise, it will be make life impossible to live. I do want to raise one thing here that we didn't talk about, and it is a very sensitive point. While we have Hamas and we have the other terrorist organizations, um, like I said, they're compared to ISIS, they're compared to the Nazis. I think what they did, it goes beyond anything we've ever experienced. I mean, yeah, the Holocaust is maybe the closest to what was there, like losing like 1,400 people in a day. It Those numbers, you can't even grasp. It, it's more people than what we lost in some of the wars altogether, like for the Yom Kippur, for example. And so those actions must be condemned, and the world must condemn them. People should not be afraid to say, to go against Hamas, because I hear people like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. But they have to separate. There's Hamas and there's the Palestinian people, and you should not talk about them in the same breath. I believe the Palestinian people have a right to live like I have the right to live, like anyone else has the right to live. We're talking about people. We're talking about mothers and fathers. We're talking about children. We're talking about brothers and sisters. They should live in dignity. They should have human rights. They should not be humiliated. And I do think that they should have their own state. Those are two different things that people forget to separate, right? And it's super important because I think that looking forward, uh, we have to find a solution for the two people to live side by side in peace. We have to. We have no choice. This is our country, and we have nowhere else to go. Like they don't have anywhere else to go. We should learn to live side by side, and respect each other and see each other as people. Um, and I do hope that there will be sane voices from both sides who will step in, because when there's vacuum, evil steps in. It's really hard for good to take over evil when there's vacuum, especially in rough times. So I want to be optimistic. I want to hope for peace. It's going to be a very long road, but and I do hope that both sides realize quickly that we have to have sane voices in our leadership, voices that want to serve the people and do not want to serve their own goods. Okay, people who don't care for their pockets, who don't want just to be rich and powerful, because those people will take advantage of uh, of other people. So going back to your question, I want to be optimistic, but it's up to us, the people, to make the difference. We cannot trust the leadership, and that's what I have to say.
You gave me goosebump. Your one sentence was very powerful. That when there is a vacuum, evil steps in. So I wish and hope that you and Palestinians, they all have a say in this, and all of these people will have peace soon. So with that, I also wanted to know that there is different kind of message all over the social media, different platforms, or the published media, international media, news, and then people are posting a lot of different things, so it gets very confusing. So what do you think about which media to trust, how media is doing the coverage, is it justified or not?
I think that at this point it is very, very hard to trust anything. I think the latest example was with the so-called Israeli bombing of the hospital in Gaza, which turned out to be false. It was actually a missile launched from Gaza by the jihad, they actually bombed the hospital. Like there was a failure, and that is what led to the explosion in the hospital. I'm giving that example because once that happened, immediately afterwards, you heard people throughout the world, I think it was BBC and CNN, if I'm not mistaken, that immediately said, look, Israel is bombing innocent people in a hospital, and they immediately threw out numbers. And if they would just have stopped and thought about it, you can't see an explosion and immediately say like 500 people were killed. It doesn't make sense, right? To count, to find, people and count the number of dead doesn't take 5 minutes. Okay, so I think that you have to be judgmental. This is it goes back to what I'm talking to my kid. Be judgmental. Like you hear the news, think, stop and think. Don't say, oh, you have a photo of something and you have that information. Okay, so someone said that, someone said that on the news, it must be true. No, don't trust that. Think. First of all, think. And, with digital media, it is very, very easy, to manipulate stuff. So I don't have a thumb rule, right? And this is why I try to stay away from social media at these times. even though I do understand the power, because Hamas is like saying, yeah, whatever Israel is saying that happened didn't happen. Well, it did. And this is why there are some movies who were shown to the foreign press here to show them. And this is why foreign press were taken to areas where that second Holocaust took place to show them, to, that they can see with their own eyes um, at least part of the things that happened. So also don't trust people who say, yeah, nothing happened, but be judgmental and talk to people. Just talk to the people and ask questions. I know it's hard. I know it's difficult. I know the subject is very, very, could be very sensitive, like I said, because you don't know. Like people say it's politics. It's not politics. Okay. There's good and bad or evil even. Okay. And there are two people trying to live. So it's not politics. It's human rights and it's the atrocities of what happened by Hamas. So don't be
Absolutely.
afraid to ask questions.
I agree. I agree. Asking clarifying question helps a lot to clear that mist in our head, and trusting the random news is not the way to build your final judgment, or cross questioning is very important. So thank you so much for being with us and clarifying all of this. I have, out of curiosity, I just wanted to ask you, I heard a lot about the bunkers in houses of Israel. Do you have one? When do you go inside that? Do you have food there? How they are built? And would you like to share some information if it is allowed? If it is not, I'll cut
Yeah,
this
yeah,
question for
yeah. I'm
you.
not gonna say it. It's not like I'm like this. I have information that is okay. I can share whatever. Yeah. So I have a shelter in my house. Some houses do have that. Some don't have that. And again, I do want to share my sympathy with people who don't have those shelters in their homes. It's horrible. People should live in safe environments and should be given the resources to live in safe environments. People should not be afraid. People should be able to reach. I mean, in ideal world, we shouldn't have shelters, right? Once there's peace, we
Absolutely.
shouldn't have shelters. But as long as we don't have peace, and you have to have shelters, everyone should have a shelter. We're talking about human rights, right? We're talking about basic stuff. Security is one of the basic things that people should have. When you live in a country, the country should be responsible for your safety, and this is one of the things that each country should give its citizens. But going back to my personal story, I have a shelter. We don't go there that often because we don't have a lot of bombings in there. Almost no bombings. Right? Yeah. But we do have there some food and water just in case. And hopefully, like you say,
Yeah, I hope
do
that
not
stays
be
that
used.
way. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, definitely. Okay, that come brings us to the end of the conversation, and I would really ask you that one last question, which is very important. That what is that one message that you would like to share with the entire world about the current situation?
I try to think about it in advance, and there's, as you probably guessed, there's so many things. So, with your permission, I want to say two things. Uh, First of all, um, terrorism, you have it in your backyard. Wherever you live, you have it. As individuals, we don't have the power, but if we unite, we have the power to defeat terrorism. We have to be strong together. We have to unite. We are different people. We have different opinions, But I think if there's one thing that we can all agree on, is that terrorism has no place on this planet. And the second thing is happy people, people who can raise their families with dignity, they want peace. They're not looking for violence. So we have to make sure that everyone is free. Everyone has their basic rights for safety, for food, for shelter, for education. And once we have that, peace will be here. Because happy people, they don't want to fight.
Very, very well said, Ruth. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. And I wish and pray and hope that peace will come to to these happy people, and the evil, the terrorism should stop from this entire world.